live from Los Angeles.
There was a trade yesterday between the Utah Jazz and the Brooklyn Nets. It's a very strange trade. They traded Royce O'Neal to Brooklyn for a future first-round draft pick. Why would the Jazz do that? Why would they do that? Why did Quinn Snyder walk away from that job? Why?
Open up space to try to land Kevin?
No. What's going on in Utah? Why would the Jazz do that? Why would they do that? It's a very strange trade. Very strange trade.
Welcome to NBA Today. I'm Malika Andrews. That was Brian Windhorst. It was July 1st. It was 10:21 in the morning Eastern. I think I was maybe doing my workout right around that time. And what was going on in Utah is that they were starting to make some moves because about 2 hours and 17 minutes later, let's be precise here, senior insider Adrian Wojnarowski, he broke the trade of the offseason so far. Rudy Gobert to the Timberwolves for quite the haul. So the logistical next question surrounding the Jazz was, what is going on with Donovan Mitchell? Well, according to Woj, Utah is now showing a willingness to listen to offers on their star all-star guard. So let's bring in the man who started all of this. It's senior writer Brian Windhorst. And Brian, what is the likelihood here that we could see Donovan Mitchell on the move?
Yeah, I think it's a strong likelihood, Malika. I think what you've got here is a grade A rebuild in Utah, and they kind of showed their hand when they made that Royce O'Neal trade. That was the beginning of this rebuild. And, certainly they're going to take a position that they don't have to trade Donovan Mitchell, and they don't. They have multiple years left on the contract. He hasn't asked to be traded, at least not yet. But this is a half measure unless they do a Donovan Mitchell trade. And I'm going to judge the Jazz by their actions, not their words. And they have already traded 2 starters this offseason. Both of them for draft pick centered trades. First Royce O'Neal, which showed us what they were going to do, and then Rudy Gobert for 4 future first-round picks with the Minnesota Timberwolves. And so I do expect Donovan Mitchell to be traded in the short to medium-term future, and I expect it to be a draft pick trade, where certainly they're going to have to take players back, but they're going to look for multiple first-round picks, just like they did for Gobert.
Well, when we were looking at that trade for Gobert, everyone started to say, oh my goodness, if this is what Gobert commands, what's Kevin Durant going to command? If that is what Gobert commands, what does the trade market look like for Donovan Mitchell?
Well, as you can imagine, Malika, the Jazz will use that as their starting point. Danny Ainge has set a standard throughout his career running the Boston Celtics and now the Utah Jazz that he is not going to make a move until he's comfortable with the return. I take you back to the famous trade he made with the Brooklyn Nets, where he got one of the greatest hauls in history for trading Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce back in 2012. I would expect him to expect a massive haul here. He doesn't have to wait. He doesn't have to do it now. He can wait it out. He knows that Donovan Mitchell is going to have a market. He knows multiple teams are going to be interested, and I think he will have a high bar. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a huge haul for him in the end. Interesting.
All right, so let's go back to the beginning, and I'm going to put my notes down for this so that I can do this fully and correctly. Wendy, what exactly then is going on in Utah?
What I think is going on and what league executives think is going on, Malika, is the Utah Jazz are going to make a move here to extract as much as they possibly can out of the New York Knicks. The Knicks have 11 different first-round picks to choose from over the next 7 years. They can trade up to 8 of them. So the Jazz could potentially say which ones they wanted. I'm sure they'll ask for a whole bunch of them. And they can try to assemble a trade. Now, the Knicks will probably, they would have interest, obviously, in Donovan Mitchell, but they're going to want to make a good deal. So you're going to have to squeeze them. And you squeeze them by getting other offers. I think there will be multiple other teams that are interested. Certainly the Miami Heat will be interested. We could have some other suitors emerge. But the Knicks have the package that is comparable to what they got for Rudy Gobert. And so league executives think this is going to be a long, winding road to see if the Knicks meet the Jazz's high asking price and we're going to be watching that very closely.
Brian, thank you so much. Do not go too far. Take these next couple of minutes, add to your legacy, and we'll see you back here in just a second. Donovan Mitchell, though, he's been a consistent scorer throughout his career as one of just 6 guards in NBA history to average 20 points per game in each of his first 5 seasons. That group includes Michael Jordan, Oscar Robertson. It also includes Allen Iverson. So here now, with Kendra Andrews, our Warriors reporter, Nick Friedel, our Nets reporter, and our big guy joining us from Houston, it's Kendrick Perkins. Nick, what have you done to add to your legacy today?
Well, Malika, I woke up at 3:30, and, I got on Get Up, so that was cool. Is that enough?
You woke up at 3:30, not 2:30? Legacy points subtracted. Welcome, everyone. Obviously, a lot to dive into, and if you know, you know on that one. Perk, I'm going to start with you here. What are the Jazz doing?
What Danny Ainge do best, right? And when you look at Danny Ainge is a guy that loves to build the team through the draft. He loved draft picks. We know how he finessed the Philadelphia 76ers and got Jason Tatum and got a pick back. We saw him draft, Jaylen Brown. We saw him draft, Marcus Smart. All those guys came through the draft. When you look at that Celtic roster, when I looking at Danny Ainge, I thought this was the last opportunity for the Utah Jazz to prove something, not only to him, but to the ownership group. When you talk about Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, right? Think about this. Rudy Gobert is a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. Rudy Gobert is a future Hall of Famer in my eyes. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. Still have a lot of prime left. And you trade him, one of the franchise centerpieces. He's about to blow up the whole thing. Donovan Mitchell will be traded at some point of this season. I'm willing to bet everything I own and have in the bank account that he will be gone from the Utah Jazz.
Ooh, that is a whole lot that you are willing to bet then. So, Nick, if that's all on the table, all of Perk's assets, what is the best fit for Donovan, in your opinion?
It's very clear to me, Malika, although I was listening to Brian and I'm hearing Tibbs looking at us on TV going, I love what's happening in Utah. So he would love him with the Knicks, but the Knicks, even with Donovan, can't win a title with that group that's in place. To me, the best fit for Donovan Mitchell is Miami. That is a group with Jimmy Butler and the core they have in place, if they don't have to give up Bam, they can go win a title right away, right now. And when that offense got bogged down in the playoffs, they needed somebody besides Jimmy to help. Donovan Mitchell's that guy. Okay, so Kendra, you cover the Warriors day in and day out. You're around Western Conference execs. You've seen the landscape of this conference up close. How would you describe, or are folks describing to you, the Jazz's offseason thus far? I mean, is it too simple to just say an overhaul, right? The Jazz are a team that have made it to the playoffs season and season again, right? But they have not been able to get over that hump. They look around and they see these teams, not just in the Western Conference, but Eastern as well, they're getting better, right? Golden State, they reemerged as champions. They have to do something to get over that hump that they have struggled to do. And they're taking all their pieces with it to try and make it to that next step. Absolutely. Even when we saw when they were the #1 seed a couple of years ago, Nick, they didn't quite get to that peak, that pinnacle. We saw them move on from Quinn Snyder as head coach. They have a much younger head coach, Will Hardy, who was on the Woj pod, by the way. Everyone go and check that out. How would you sum up their offseason here? They're ready to hit the button. You know the R word when you see it, and this is a rebuild that's coming right now. You don't make the moves that they've already started to make, and you don't make it known that Donovan's available when you've had that core in place for so long. It's only a matter of time. It's time to hit the button, and if Danny Ainge gets back exactly what he wants, it's coming. Perk, have you got to thinking, I know that's always dangerous, about what you would describe this offseason as for them?
You know what? I mean, it's right. How about that? It's right. That's because think about how many times that the Utah Jazz has failed us, right? They have been so dominant in the regular season. Over the past 4 or 5 seasons, either the best record in the NBA, second best record in the NBA, been at the top of the Western Conference. And what happened? Early exit. Never got to the conference finals. Never even sniffed the finals. So when you look at it, it's time, right? It's only right to blow it up because you wasn't going to get anywhere with Rudy. Although he's a hell of a player, he's not a second option guy. He's not a third option guy. He's an all-star again. He's a Hall of Famer, but he's a guy that plays like a Ben Wallace role for the Detroit Pistons. You look at Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell is not a first option guy that's going to get you or win you a championship or even take you to the promised land. But what Donovan Mitchell is, he's a second option guy that you could pair alongside a guy like a Jimmy Butler who showed us he's able to elevate his game when postseason come and be one of the best players in the world. That's who Donovan Mitchell is, and I think the Utah Jazz realized that he's not a guy that we could build around for the future for us winning the championship.
Well, he is a piece, though, a player that could take an organization, like you mentioned, over the top, an organization that might be knocking on the door. He's a heck of a player who could absolutely do that. Perk, have you done anything to add to your legacy today?
That's my favorite question.
You know what? I did. I actually took my two oldest sons to basketball practice this morning. That's adding to my legacy.
It did.
When
Your
invest into your
entire
children.
family is better.